Welcome back to the classroom, guys. And this time around, this evening, we're going to talk about uh, a few more toggles that you need to know about, and then drawing in isometric, which is something that you can do manually, but there's an automatic method that is within AutoCAD. So let's jump right into the classroom, and then we'll start the 12 minutes once we get there. Okay, so I'll put this down and then let's begin. Um, the last time we learned about orthographic drawing, and then, oh, it's here, ortho mode and then polar mode. But then when we get here below, there's also something that is highlighted in blue, which is the grid mode. That's what we're seeing right here, these squares here that don't have the drawing yet. We can turn this off if you didn't want that. You just click that or click F7 to get rid of it. This one is snapping. F9 is snapping to the grid. So for example, if you're trying to draw and that is on, I turned it on by pressing F9. If you try to create something, you can see that the cursor moves a little jaggedy. That's because it's snapping to the grid right now. So when this happens, understand that you might have hit F9 on accident, and that's why that is happening. Your control is less precise this way because it will keep on snapping to the grid until you disable it with another F9, wherein which your line will be free to move all over the plane wherever you want it to go. Okay, so uh, now let's turn off the grid, and then here, this one, dynamic input. You don't see this when we're discussing here because I normally turn it off. This one eats up a significant amount of RAM, but by default, this is on in your AutoCAD. So when we were discussing all those commands before, when you do it with dynamic input on, when you try to create something, you can see that there is an input area right beside your cursor, and this happens for all the commands. And then you can see that there's more contextual data that's being presented to us right now, but we don't really need that. That's why it was turned off for all our earlier discussions. Because this comes in handy when you're trying to draw uh, again with intention and with a little bit of guidance from the computer. It's like an assistive mode actually, but I would recommend that you don't use this. Now, what else do we have here? We have isometric drafting. This is the one that we're going to talk about right now. So here it's called ISODraft, but before there is a command for it called snap style. And it's spelled this way, snap, S-T-Y-L, snap style. So when this is invoked, you can see that ISODraft turns on, and right now, our our cursor has turned into a it's turned itself into an isometric position. And we can change this by we can cycle through the various isometric states by pressing F5. And what that means is that, uh, for example, right now we're looking at an isometric that is like on the front and left side of the object. So if we create a rectangle this way, you can see that it still creates a rectangle the usual way because only the cursor changed, the paper did not change. But with the change of the cursor, what we have in addition to it is when we use orthographic toggle with snap style, you can see that it's following the cursor right now. That pretty interesting, right? So all other commands will follow uh, this orientation, but the paper did not change. Okay, so this is useful when you're drawing those riser diagrams and you needed it to be in isometric. And again, cycling through it, you press F5. Now we're looking at the top. So let's try and create a cube so you can better understand this. So we're gonna create the top of the cube. Okay, so I just close that polyline and then once again move the snap style by pressing F5. This is the other side of the cube. You can see that when we're using what I'm doing right here, this one is creating a smart guide. So how that happens is you find a snapping point and then when you move your cursor around, it uses that snapping point as a reference. So again, we'll do this to complete that phase. And then once again, F5, and we're back to the first orientation. So there, this is the better way to understand it. When you cycle through top and bottom, right side and forward, left side and forward. So that's it. You can see it better with the grid on actually. So you can see that the grid changes with each change, although it's not really exactly aligned there. It still works. And of course, in order to go back, you can just recommand snap style or click this ISODraft and turn it off. And then we will be returned to the normal plane. Uh, Also, another important command when you're within snap style or ISODraft is while you can easily create the straight lines, what you want to be able to do here is to create a circle that is aligned to this plane that we want to work with. Because if you only try and create a circle, it doesn't work. It's not isometric. So what we want to do actually is instead of a circle, we will create an ellipse here. Ellipse. And then you can see here that within the ellipse command, because ellipse is a elongated circle, there is an iso circle here, which we can use to create ourselves a nice round isometric circle that would perfectly align with our plane and also works for the top side. Top side. Once more. EL for ellipse and then I for iso circle. So we're going from the center out. So that's how that happens. Then for brevity, we'll just go with the other one. And once more, ellipse I creates the iso circle. So we're still drawing in 2D right now. It just looks like it's in 3D because we're viewing it and the cursor is in isometric. The actual 3D in CAD exists, and when we the easiest way to check is through this view cube here. So if we choose this uh, lower left hand trigger, what happens is the view reverts to that. Right now we're viewing it from the top and we have this uh, steering wheel. That's what this is officially called. And you can hold this and then turn the page if you wanted, if you need to. This is the steering wheel. And then back to the top. And then when we try to choose this, the lower left corner, what happens is we go into an actual isometric position. You can see now that there is an additional blue line that denotes the z-axis. And right now, we have z-axis in this view, which means that we are actually in 3D and not just in an isometric area or mode. So to return, you can just use the view cube again and then click on that. Your view cube right now is probably bigger because this is already a reduced version on mine. So that's it. The alarm has went off and our 12 minutes are up. That takes care of most of the toggles, and we will go into text creation and dimensioning in the next video. Take care, guys. There's a storm brewing, so keep safe. Goodbye.